Do states have the right to cooperate with federal authorities or not to when they decide to? Well, can the federal government cut funding to states if they refuse to do it? Well, we could soon get answers to both of these questions. President Donald Trump is now signing an executive order targeting sanctuary cities, and this comes on the heels of legal challenges that blocked his federal freeze on sanctuary cities. Now look, a lot has gone on over the last few days. We'll get into that, but first, one of the key parts of this is a new Trump order that challenges the policies of sanctuary cities. And this executive order is called Protecting American Communities from Criminal Aliens. And here's what it does according to the White House fact sheet. It says this: the order directs the Attorney General and Secretary of Homeland Security to publish a list of states and local jurisdictions obstructing federal immigration law enforcement and notify each sanctuary city jurisdiction of its noncompliance, providing an opportunity to correct it. Now, real quick here, the key word is obstructing. When they're saying obstructing, they're actually referring to a crime. And understand that in context of them recently arresting 2 judges under, again, a very similar charge, this could mean they're going to go after these local officials for quote-unquote obstruction. That could be what they're signaling here. It says this as well: sanctuary jurisdictions that do not comply with federal law may lose federal funding. And it says the order directs that Attorney General and Secretary of Homeland Security to pursue all necessary legal remedies and enforcement measures, remember, legal remedies like criminal charges possibly, to bring non-compliant jurisdictions into compliance. And it adds, it instructs the Attorney General and Secretary of Homeland Security to develop mechanisms for proper eligibility verification in sanctuary jurisdictions to prevent illegal aliens from receiving federal public benefits. And it says the order ensures illegal aliens are not being favored over American citizens by directing the Attorney General to address state or local laws that unlawfully prioritize aliens. It adds this includes in-state tuition benefits for aliens or criminal sentencing factors that also favor aliens. A lot of stuff there, folks. Now, it seems this is going to be going after sanctuary cities through a lot of different means. One of them could be on obstruction, meaning if there are local officials directly involved in obstructing law enforcement, because it's actually what sanctuary city laws do. They prevent law enforcement from cooperating with federal authorities when it comes to, immigration issues. It could be that. It could also be, for example, a lot of the free food, free housing, social programs they give to them. Some of that also ties into how they verify whether a person is a citizen or not. And it also includes a lot of other programs, as they mention school tuition, paying for their schools. It could be, for example, any state program that may serve them in various ways using federal money. They're going to be going after all of this. Now, Trump also signed a second executive order that related to this one. It increases and empowers law enforcement officers through providing, quote, legal resources and indemnification for officers facing unjust legal expenses from official duties, including pro bono assistance, as well as increase the provision of surplus military assets to support local law enforcement and evaluate their use in crime prevention. Now, some people criticize the quote-unquote militarization of the police. The reality is the police also deal with things that might justify that, if you understand that Americans can, own effectively war weapons. Now, White House Secretary Karoline Leavitt also spoke about these orders. Here's what she had to say during a press conference yesterday. Watch.
President Trump will sign an executive order on law and order and another executive order on sanctuary cities. The first EO will strengthen and unleash America's law enforcement to pursue criminals and protect innocent citizens. The second EO is centered around protecting American communities from criminal aliens, and it will direct the Attorney General and Secretary of Homeland Security to publish a list of state and local jurisdictions that obstruct the enforcement of federal immigration laws. After these are signed, the President will have signed more than 140 executive orders already, rapidly approaching the total number signed by the Biden administration over the course of 4 years in office. Speaking of Joe Biden, it was his awful open border policies that recklessly allowed more than 10 million illegal aliens to invade the United States over the past 4 years.
Now, briefly on the executive orders, that's a lot of executive orders. Trump is only about 100 days in, just had his anniversary for that. He has had issues. He's issued really about as many orders as Biden did during his entire time in office in 100 days. And remember also, using executive orders like this, it used to be kind of controversial. In fact, Republicans used to be against it. If you remember during Obama's second term in office, Republicans had a majority in the House and Senate. Obama was criticized for using executive orders to bypass Congress. And there were a lot of questions, including from Republicans, on whether it was even legal that he was doing that. Now, Republicans, they used to be fairly critical of executive orders. Trump is kind of using those powers to a very strong degree right now. And when it comes to this, the argument from the Trump side is, if you did it, I will do it too. When it came even to some of the election law changes, he was doing that as well. He says, look, I don't support these things, but if you have done it, you say it's precedent now, I'm going to use it. Trump is kind of going all in with executive orders. Now, it seems his argument is that he's trying to jumpstart his policies. Because look, Biden coming out on top in the 2020 elections, that would mean normally Trump would have to effectively start again from scratch. And that means going, of course, through all the legal review, basically not getting anything done because of Congress, and he would effectively come back in for a second term and probably not do a whole lot. The executive orders are kind of a way of resetting things to where he would have been anyways, right, had he never left office. But that also means that he's not going to be challenged on them, I think. This does not mean that he's not going to face challenges. When it comes to sanctuary cities, this is actually one of the bigger challenges, and it goes back pretty far. Remember, sanctuary city laws were mainly put into place during Trump's first term in office. He campaigned heavily back in 2015 on building the wall. He says, we're going to build the wall, right? And also on mass deportations. If you've noticed, both of those efforts were heavily blocked. They never really got done. We never really saw mass deportations. The wall was never finished. They had the stuff there. The governments were even auctioning off the pieces for it. Now, state-level sanctuary city laws effectively were used to kind of block a lot of what Trump was trying to do on the deportation side. It was a way to prevent Trump from carrying out his agenda effectively. And this debate over federal law and state rights, well, it's kind of reaching a boiling point. During the Biden administration, this is also a big point. Remember, Texas and Florida were resisting a lot of what Biden was doing. And the argument also was state rights, although that was also deemed an extremist word. If you talked about federal overreach or state rights, you were labeled an extremist. Now it's not being framed that way anymore. Again, sanctuary cities are effectively doing that. And there's actually, especially now, the Trump administration is moving to arrest even local officials being accused of blocking deportation efforts. When it comes to sanctuary city laws, the issue has always been, can states effectively not enforce the law? Can states block the federal government from enforcing the law? To what extent is that legal? And I think we're going to get some answers on this soon. The message being sent right now is that officials, or even judges for that matter, if they try to, again, obstruct deportations, including under state law, they could themselves be arrested. But there's also a big legal conflict with sanctuary cities kind of overall right now. The Trump administration was moving to block federal funding to around 16 sanctuary cities already. This was in addition to, lawsuits over the policies. It's just one example of this. The administration filed a lawsuit just recently against Rochester County in New York. This is 13 ABC. It says the Trump administration is taking the city of Rochester to court following a controversial encounter between Rochester police officers and federal immigration authorities. It says following the March 24th traffic stop on Whitney Street near Lale Avenue, Mayor Malik Evans and Police Chief David Smith claimed the officers involved violated the city's immigration policy by assisting federal agents at the scene. Long story short, federal agents had to traffic stop several individuals refusing to cooperate, would not roll down their windows. We don't know how many there were in the car. I believe it was 5. They requested assistance from the police. The police ordered them, roll down your windows, get out of the car. They refused. They said, we're going to smash the windows if you don't. Then they cooperated. Police then left them to be arrested, and that was that. But the police were facing punishment by the city. The police were punished for that because, according to, again, the sanctuary city laws, the local officials argued police are not allowed to assist federal agents. And even when agents requested help or assistance, they were not allowed to do it. And so, again, they're facing punishment. Now, it says this, that Evans said the city is going to fight it in court. This is, again, the local official fighting against the DOJ lawsuit. And it says the DOJ argues Rochester's sanctuary and immigration policies are illegal, claiming, quote, those laws and policies are designed to, and in fact do, interfere with and discriminate against the federal government's enforcement of federal immigration law in violation of the supremacy clause of the United States Constitution. Now, local official Evans said, I want to be clear that we believe in the rule of law, and we hope the federal government also believes in the rule of law, and added, the rule of law cannot be something that you think is okay when it only suits your purpose, and we will defend and protect our residents in their interest. Of course, residents meaning, of course, prior legal aliens. Now, on the side of the federal funding freeze, well, look, as many of the current policies are doing right now, that action is now being blocked by a judge. Judges, of course, blocking most of Trump's actions. The Guardian reported this. The Trump administration cannot deny federal funds to cities and counties that have passed laws preventing or limiting cooperation with U.S. immigration officials, a federal judge ruled on Thursday, saying you got to give these little areas all the federal money. You can't withhold it because they're not enforcing federal law. Now, it says that the U.S. District Court Judge William Orrick issued a temporary injunction sought by San Francisco, Santa Clara County, and also it says more than a dozen other municipalities with sanctuary policies, and declared that portions of Donald Trump's executive order were unconstitutional. And they're blocking, of course, Trump's actions. They say this, quote, the cities and counties have also demonstrated a likelihood of irreparable harm. This is Orrick writing in the order. And added the threat to withhold funding causes them irreparable injury in the form of budgetary uncertainty, deprivation of constitutional rights, it says, and undermining trust between the cities and counties and the communities they serve. Now, I note that on his first day in office, the U.S. President, Trump, issued an order directing the Attorney General and Homeland Security Secretary to withhold federal funds from sanctuary jurisdictions as part of his administration's crackdown on immigration. And in another order, it says he directed the federal government to ensure funds to state and local governments don't, quote, abet so-called sanctuary policies that seek to shield illegal aliens from deportation. It adds that meanwhile, on Thursday, the U.S. Transportation Department threatened states with the loss of federal funding if they do not comply with U.S. immigration enforcement efforts. And it says under the judge's order, the federal government is prohibited from directly or indirectly taking any action to withhold, freeze, or condition federal funds. Some are even interpreting this as like, you know, Social Security for illegal aliens and so on. It adds this. The Trump administration must provide written notice of his order to all federal departments and agencies by Monday. So a judge orders the President of the United States. Now, look, we're of course going to have to see if that holds up. And the other key issue right now is whether individual officials who try to block federal agents, could they face arrest, which, we're actually now starting to see happen. On the narrative front, though, and on the legal side, a big part of the argument is also on crime. And this is really how sanctuary city laws work. This is how they work. It appears the Trump administration is using crime as kind of their main talking point with this in order to justify the deportations and to fight back against these laws. And also as a way to criticize the states for not cooperating. The allegation from the Trump side, the Trump administration, is basically that these states and counties are protecting criminals harming the local people while sacrificing, again, the safety of everybody, effectively. During an interview with ABC News, Board czar Tom Homan, he actually raised this point. Watch this.
President Trump will sign an executive order on law and order and another executive order on sanctuary cities. The first EO will strengthen and unleash America's law enforcement to pursue criminals.
The executive order in sanctuary cities is needed. I know a judge has just recently said, another district court judge who does a nationwide injunction, which I don't think they have authority to do. There's a reason they're called district court judges. But we're not going to stop doing what we're doing. The judges can issue these nationwide injunctions, but we're going to keep moving forward. The president's going to sign the executive order because sanctuary cities are sanctuaries for criminals. I'll give you one example. Laken Riley. She fought for her life for 17 minutes. If we didn't have a sanctuary city law in New York, ICE would have got him when he was arrested in New York. He never would have made it to Georgia. Laken Riley would be studying today in the college, and her mother wouldn't have had to bury a daughter. That is one example out of thousands. So we're going to keep putting the pressure on sanctuary cities. We're not giving up.
All right, Trump administration.
Now, there actually is a good amount of truth to that, mainly because of how sanctuary city laws work. The policies mostly protect criminal aliens. That is actually what they do. Basically, the way sanctuary city laws, when they were put into place, how they work, is that if an illegal immigrant commits a crime, local law enforcement and the courts, they used to cooperate with ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, to facilitate the person's deportation. Part of that is just based on the fact that local officials tend to not have international databases when it comes to who this person is, how do you deport them, and so on. They don't actually have the people's identities. ICE would have that power, Border Patrol would have that. And so if an individual who is not a U.S. citizen, has no identity or anything, goes to a court, gives them whatever name he or she wants, and then, is supposed to show up voluntarily, effectively, when they get their next hearing, there's a handoff that normally takes place. They call in ICE. ICE goes there. They arrest the person, and then, of course, the case is handled by them, as well as maybe by the courts to an extent, depending on the crime. But oftentimes, they deport them. Sanctuary city laws put into place, they mostly just prevent that from happening. What they do is they forbid local law enforcement from cooperating with federal authorities on that, including on deportations. And so this does mostly act to protect illegal immigrants who commit crimes, specifically. This is not about going after just any random illegal alien for the most part. This is about the criminals. And it seems this is becoming kind of the new focal point in the debate from the White House. In fact, the White House, they put up some new lawn decorations. They put up photographs of alleged illegal immigrants and the crimes that they're facing. I mean, these include horrible things, child rape, murder, other things like that. And this is the official White House post on this. You can see its photos stuck onto the lawn with the words arrested, their photos, the words illegal alien, and also the crime written on these poster boards. And part of the justification for this is that if journalists do stand-ups with the White House in the background, they're going to have to show those posters on camera. And look, this is also being done at the same time the Trump administration is rolling out all these other plans to go after sanctuary city laws that help prevent deportations. A key narrative they have is that the laws are protecting criminals at the cost of American safety. They're effectively saying you're exposing your communities to murder, rape, all kinds of other things. These are the individuals. This is who is being protected. Now, on the other side, here's how it's being framed by other media. This is MSNBC.
The White House has put up about 100 posters of what they say are unauthorized immigrants who have been arrested for violent crimes. You can see them there. They put them up on the driveway of the White House. If you look here, that's the West Wing just at the forefront, the executive mansion itself to the left. But what's particularly noteworthy about this location is it is right directly behind the positions where TV correspondents do their hits from the White House lawn. So therefore, no matter what network you're on, that includes MSNBC, if you're doing a hit from the White House right now, those pictures will be behind you. The White House doing a briefing in about a half hour about what they're doing here. Maria, your response to this image.
So I have to say, one of the biggest challenges that we have with the deportations that we know of so far, for example, with Kilmer Abrego Garcia, we don't know if they've had due process. We don't know if, in fact, these individuals do have a rap.
As you notice, they blurred the photos. And I saw other media doing this too. I saw CNN, for example, did that as well. It seems the argument they have on doing that is they maybe don't believe the Trump administration's framing of the individuals is strong enough to support the criminal claims, or they just don't want to let the White House effectively put, imagery on their shots which they believe promotes an issue they don't seem to agree with.
In a world of codes, screens, and lights, hidden truths wear digital masks. City of the binary nights, awake from the program tasks. Eyes open wide to the glitch in the seams. Planets got the mirror cage. Truth isn't what it seems. Find yourself beyond the digital rage. Break the matrix, break the mold. Riddles in the coding unfold.